Y'all ready for a deeper conversation with Chad?
The stage, like the theatre or movie set, is set by the director or producer and their backstage crew. A theme and a set applied, ready for the play or story to be undertaken. Ready for the play, with its genre and storyline, with its audience and with its actors, the orchestra and curtain call. The director or producer is the creator of the story and the set. His vision or idea is made reality via the stage. His helpers are the backstage crew, whom he employed for various tasks, whether that be for effects such as weather, snow, rain, wind, prop and set change, wardrobe and theme. They may have quiet words with the actors on the director's behalf. They ultimately make sure the play goes to plan, go accordingly to the script. But whilst the play is undergoing, they remain hidden. They cannot be seen by the audience. They lurk in the shadows, managing and controlling the set. Instructed by the word of the director, they control and manage but also watch. Like the audience, the set and stage are made for them but also all, for the vision of the director created and crafted as his desire wills, for himself but also for his audience and his crew to watch and enjoy. Now seen through TVs in which we watch the shows of life. Without either the director, the backstage crew, the stage, the set, the actors or the audience, the show couldn't happen. Every player in the play is essential to the play. The stage remains the same, but the set often changes. Many plays are shown upon the stage with a variety of actors, just a change of masks, props and themes used. The orchestra's music and the emotion attached to that vibration varies, and the songs played are the music for that play that match the themes and stories being played out, including weather. Although the plays change, in this theatre we speak of, the backstage crew and the director remain the same. So do many of its actors, with just a change of mask, a change of character. In this theatre we speak of, we change the names and use our imagination to take this traditional theatre to a theatre of dreams, to a theatre of God. Imagine for me that the world is a stage and we are its actors, who have been on this stage many times before, forgetting about the previous sets. The sets come and change by the elites and all the watchers, who were the backstage crew working with the person in charge of the play, the director or the producer, in this case God. They watch us act in the play of life, but also us being watchers ourselves, as we both act in this play but also observe it. With our masks on, we are unaware of the stage, the set, the play. We play many roles. With our mask on, we forget the stage and immerse ourselves in the character and play. They say when you die, you will be judged. Judged by God, rewarded for your actions, rewarded for your performance, or punished for your wrongs. Like in the movies or theatre, when an actor has been exceptional or played his role amazingly, he is rewarded with a reward, a medal or trophy. When he hasn't played his role well, he will be criticised and burned by his fans and the public, maybe not getting another role. But the successful actors get many roles, are in many plays or movies, the same person playing many roles because they are good at it. Before I continue, let's see how this exists in at least 3 different forms. You have the world as a stage, life as God's play, the grand stage, the play of life. Then you have your own life, in which it is a story within the grand story. You are a co-director and main character of your own story, maybe unaware of the grander story we are in. Then you have the movies and cinema and TV, in which experiences or fantasy is recreated to represent life, or be an expression of life. Through different genres, actors and directors get rewarded for their vision in doing this, in showing the people of the world an experience they have created and brought forward, replicating what's happening on a larger scale, on the scale of the universe or life itself. The elites and Hollywood know that life is very similar to a movie, and it is they who help build the world set for the world's play and help set the story, make sure the story goes according to the director's plan. Some would argue that the elites have hijacked the director and took over the play. This may be the case, this may be not. Maybe it's all part of the grand plan. But movies are a way to show this on a smaller scale. So in terms of the latter in movies or theatre, the peoples get rewarded for their actions at things like Academy Awards and the Oscars. In terms of the world stage, I feel this would be Judgment Day in the Bible.
It's Hollywood's big night, the 32nd Annual Oscar Awards, with a dazzling crowd of filmdom's great names packing the house.
Now let us imagine again that the ultimate Judgment Day takes place here on earth, where the gods and angels come down and judge the actions of man according to his actions, rewarding those who perform well with riches, lands and titles, and those who didn't, the opposite. The rewards and actions would be given, and an interaction between the higher and the lower would be seen. In the world fairs, maybe we saw the rewarding and awarding of action and the display of the end of a play, the start of a changing of set, a reset, where other sets from previous times may be used, may be discarded. The props from this set and previous sets may be brought forward as ultimately the curtain has been lifted. And when the curtain gets lifted, the backstage crew and the mechanics are revealed and shown. The audience and its actors show appreciation to the director, producer and backstage staff, like we see in the theatre or movies. And then the director and backstage crew disappear, for they are prepping to begin setting the set for the new play. The actors, characters of previous sets will be changed. We have discussed this as masks. This can be seen as reincarnation. But immediately, new actors may also be needed. In real world terms, this will be easily done with the take on of children. The adults of previous sets will have memories of that set and story. They cannot go into the new set and play unless the director wishes for that to happen. The children, however, won't hold any memory, if any, very little, perfect to be the new actors of the new play as a continuation. As in real life, the play cannot be stopped. There is no interval or break as such, no pause button, no time to get ice cream. So the new actors or characters would have to be already present. Children are perfect, and in the old world we see a huge amount of orphans. Also concerning the no pause button or interval would be the set change. No time to break and change set, so the taking down of one set and the destruction has to take place side by side with the construction of the new one simultaneously. If we look at our history and the destruction of some of the beautiful world structures, but not all at once in stages, as they are taken down and replaced by other buildings, in our case less sophisticated, completely different to the previous theme. In the case of the world fairs, if the director and backstage crew showed off their props and displayed their skills, all the buildings could very well be their work, as well as being part of a previous set, as we see with maybe things such as the Sphinx and pyramids. These sets may have well included peoples of advanced intelligence, high technology, godlike beings, if that was the theme and the story of the play. Although the plays and sets generally follow a pattern of progression, there's no reason they can't completely switch and come to something completely different. Like when you're watching a sci-fi movie and then switch to a soap, or an 1800s drama, or then an action movie. Why not? It's up to you. So the technology, so we call it, and buildings of the past are hidden from us, abandoned like those of movie sets when they have no use.
The silent film required thousands of actors, crew, and animals, along with an immense construction project. DeMille commissioned designer Paul Iribe, known as the father of Art Deco, to build a lavish set 12 stories high and 800 feet wide in the Guadalupe-Nipomo sand dunes on the California coast. After filming wrapped, the set was too expensive to move and too valuable to leave for a rival filmmaker to use, so DeMille ordered it buried. Now, archaeologists have unearthed part of one of the 21 sphinxes DeMille left behind. This week they discovered a 300-pound head still intact after nearly a century in the sand.
Sometimes destroyed, sometimes hidden, sometimes abandoned. The elites, as we call them, are the ones doing this as the backstage crew of the director. We don't like this and it seems evil, as it's hidden and kept from us, but as both the actors and the audience of the play, we cannot see the happenings of the play whilst our masks are on. The play cannot be played well if the character knows what will happen. This is often spoke about as King Lear. The man who played King Lear forgot he was playing King Lear, losing himself in the character, forgetting he was in the play. With our masks off, which ultimately would be the death of the character, we see the play and the stage as it is, as one, and the role we played in that. As the set changes, new education and a history or narrative would have to be given. History would be written according to this, with all of its books and objects following the pattern. The new peoples, the new children will be educated in a manner to suit this new change, forgetting the old world that once would have been, even forgetting their parents in a lot of cases, and becoming orphans. The destruction of precious knowledge, technology, education systems, religion and belief, for new ones to be laid, eventually give rise to the peoples of the new set, with the new set itself. Of course, due to the scale of the stage, and because the destruction has to happen simultaneously to the creation, things get missed and they don't get seen to in time. People notice things, take photos, books, objects, information, hide them, create secret cults to keep the information going, as information from previous sets can always be used on the grand stage, no matter the set. We see this in our set. For the new play and the story to go on, and once the play has been played, the same thing happens all over again. The set gets reset. The players get retasked. The story before forgotten for a new story to take place. The punishments and rewards dealt for performance. The set clean as best as it can be. For us this would be seen as fire or water, end times destruction. As you can already tell, I am talking about two different types of reset. There seems to be a grand reset, where the stage gets wiped clean and the set gets reset through disaster, through an end time. There seems to be a grand end time where the cycle begins again. That's the main reset. Then there seems to be smaller resets within the story itself, where the story gets changed within an existing story and there's no need for the grand stage or set to be wiped. The two different variations of resets I speak of.
We were not stone then, but light. It was not our place to interfere. Yet we chose to try and help mankind. And when we disobeyed the Creator, He punished us. We were encrusted by your world. Rock and mud shackled our fiery glow.
As for me, these are my stories. I observe all that transpires here, but I do not, cannot, will not interfere, for I am the Watcher.
So on this stage we stand, and as Shakespeare said, the world is a stage and all its men and women are merely players. They have their entrances and exits, and one man in his time plays many roles, with his 7 scenes. These are the 7 stages a human goes through a Shakespeare story. On this stage we stand with all of its parts and people seemingly separate, with completely different roles, moving at different speeds and rotations, on different cycles, but are actually one in the grand play of life.
The man who lived and created Born on the 4th of July, Ron Kovic.
I just wanted to say thanks. I'm glad you came along, partner.
You can never find truth. All you can do is find false, drop it and get rid of it. And eventually, when you can't get rid of any more false, what you're left with is the truth. How much false can you find? And there's lots in history. I was looking around the internet and came across the images of the 1893 Chicago World Exposition. And it blew my mind because it looked like ancient Rome in the middle of downtown Chicago. And as I looked at it further, well, here's another one in Philadelphia, here's another one in St. Louis, in Buffalo, in San Francisco, and then as soon as they were done, they tore them all down and threw them in the garbage. That just told me there's something wrong with all of these. The story of the expositions is a gigantic lie. And I think it's so huge of a lie because I think they're right at a bridge point when so many things about the 1800s that seem strange and weird, right as this sort of period ends of unbelievable strangeness, and all of a sudden these fairs spring up all over the world with impossible buildings we're talking about, which are colossal structures. Chicago built 700 acres of fair in supposedly less than 2 years. St. Louis built 1,200 acres of exposition buildings. One of the buildings in Chicago, the manufacturer's building, would house 300,000 people. There's a giant statue in the middle of the lagoon. It was called the Golden Lady, and it was known as the Statue of the Republic. It was 65 feet tall. They say it was covered in gold leaf that had copper underneath, but others speculate it was actually made out of solid gold. So you're talking 65 foot high, potentially solid gold statue. We're talking giant structures and looking like ancient Rome with towers and domes and columns and the most fine, ornate pieces to them in these record, unbelievable times. Then as soon as they're done, chuck them in the garbage. Like Jackson Park is a swamp. So supposedly they had to drive down tens of thousands of wooden stakes in order to support the weight of everything. They dug out massive lagoons, lakes. They had a canal system that ran through the entire exposition. They also had an above-ground electric train. An electric train, well, where's the electricity coming from? That's running around the park. They had a moving walkway down by the shore. Not enough people are asking, where does this technology come from?
Just to frame it, if I'm not mistaken, the Chicago Fair was the first time people had seen electric light.
Tesla's the one who got the electricity contract for the Chicago Exposition, and it was certainly more than all of the lights anyway that were in New York City at the time were at the Chicago Exposition.
Now, it must have been mind-blowing for most of those people who had only seen gaslight or candlelight at night to see that city lit up in such a way. Again, count the ways. It's 1901. We are told, whether it's true or not, the idea of being able to electrically do anything hasn't been around that long.
And this fair is bizarre. This is supposed to be Tesla's fair, where he managed to somehow move electricity from Niagara Falls to Buffalo for the fair. No one's really explained how he actually did that. And at the middle of the fair is a 395-foot-high electrical tower, on top of which, of course, is a female golden statue called the Goddess of Light. And this thing was lit up by, some suggest, 500,000 electric light bulbs. Again, when you look at the photos of this thing, it's just, where do they really get the power from?
I mean, think of what it would take today if you had a place with no electricity and no way to pipe it in, the generators that would have to be built.
For example, there's a building that went up for the Barcelona exposition in 1888. It was claimed to be the fastest built building in the world, 5,000 square meters, capacity for 2,000 guests, 600 rooms, 30 apartments, and it was supposed to be built in 53 days. This is supposed to be a time of horse and buggy. The 2-year building times are actually impossible unless the two most likely theories would be either A, they had a technology that they're not supposed to have, and it really was built in that time frame. Even if they built them, they had to build them out of marble and stone in record time, or the buildings were already there. They'd been there for hundreds or thousands of years, fixed up, refurbished, repainted, hence the term whitewashed, which is the term that was used for the Chicago Exposition, which was paint all the buildings with this brand new spray paint that they had just developed to spray paint all the buildings in record time. So you couldn't tell if anything was old or anything was new.
How long did these things tend to stay open? When they built these things, supposedly over 2 years, which is the narrative, how long were they there for?
About 6 months.
6 months for the public to come.
And then what was amazing, for example, in St. Louis, 2 days after the fair ended, they brought in a demolition team from Chicago with explosives and blew the thing up. They actually used dynamite to blow it up, and they say threw it in landfills. Things like the World Fairs shows there was a time in our past, and even not that far in our past, where humans seem to be at a completely higher level. Human living and human knowledge were constructed into the buildings using cymatics, using sacred geometry. These fairs, they're so important to study because the history that we know right now as history was invented at the time these fairs were going on. One of their underlying nefarious purposes was to teach a historical narrative to the population that they were supposed to believe and agree with. And scarily, the world we're walking into today is in some way, has its origins during the time of these fairs.
What happened here? Who did this?
My lord, you are the dreaming. The dreaming is you. With you gone as long as you were, the realm began to decay and crumble.
And the residents? The palace staff?
I'm afraid most have gone.
Gone.
Some went looking for you.
And the others?
They thought perhaps you'd grown weary of your duties. And
What? Abandon them? Had they so little faith in me? Do my own subjects not know me?
if I may, sir, it would not be the first time one of the Endless had just...
Enough.
Yet it wasn't always like this, you know? There was a time when you humans, you worshipped us as gods. Right here in this valley, you built temples of blood and bone to honor us. And then you turned on us. Well, guess what? I'm gonna take back what's ours.